Okay, welcome everybody. This is Mark Vogt, the chairman and host of the Chicagoland SharePoint Users Group, and today is the September session for the Chicagoland SharePoint Users Group. We have guest presenters today, Michael Blumenthal, Ralph Rivas, Perumal Chandra Mohan, who's actually calling in from India today, so please welcome him when he gets on, and Ofer Gall from Novus Law right here in Chicago. You'll see a background slide here that talks a little bit, that shows a little bit about what's going on in the Chicago area. It's all about baseball in the fall. Here's what we're actually going to be talking about today. Oh, first I got to mention, potentially there are some technical difficulties. If we have problems, please stay on the line, and one of our teammates is actually going to recover and continue the rest of the slides. Just wanted to let you know there's a possibility. Enough said on that. Today's agenda. Typically the SharePoint, the big picture, SharePoint news and events, an Office 365 update from Michael, a SharePoint framework update that Ralph does, but I'll take over for him today. He wasn't able to join. Michael's going to do a demo on Office 365 site hubs. Our guest, Perumal, is actually going to be doing a vendor demo on a product called apps4.pro, a planner tool that integrates very nicely with Microsoft Planner. Ofer is going to follow up with a demo on some cool solutioning that he's done with Kendo UI, jQuery, and CSS. We're really excited to see what that looks like. Watch for that coming up. And I'll be finishing off the day with a demo on MSFlow, in particular, a new action called the SendHTTPRequest. Let's dive in. Talking always about SharePoint in the big picture, I also want to mention that we continue to grow on our LinkedIn group. We've now grown. I was making this slide yesterday at 61 members. We actually increased to 2 more yesterday. We ended up with 14 new members since the last session. So welcome Tina, Don, Bhupendra, Sandra, Gopi, Perumal, Teresa, Don, Molly, Kiran, Kevin, Jay, Matt, and Thomas. That's just in the last month. So things are starting to pick up on LinkedIn. We're getting noticed. We're certainly getting some attention from Microsoft as well. It's turning into a useful user group. SharePoint, the big picture, big truth out there. Searching is a vital aspect of collaborating. In fact, a recent study shows that searching during the day consumes 15% of our entire workday, where we're working, searching, meeting, reporting, contacting, traveling, and othering, any other thing. 15% is a big number, everybody. It translates into 45 minutes. What if we could reduce that to seconds in your organization? What if you could also make that searching easy and simple? In fact, what if you could also make it a single search across all of your technologies wherever data is reposited? Take a look at that 30-minute gain even out of 45 times 250 workdays in a year times 1,000 workers in, let's say, a typical size corporation times $150 in overhead. You literally have millions of dollars of increased productivity. I kid you not. This ends up being one of the best strengths of SharePoint to an organization. Why? Let's look at the next slide. Because SharePoint it's possible, it's capable of indexing everything in your organization, not just SharePoint, but your entire file system, your ERP system, your content management system, any other ODBC compliant databases, including even your email. SharePoint can become your organization's corporate Google if you let it. And this is turning out to be another big surge that's happening. People are getting rid of their Google search appliances and actually replacing it with SharePoint. In our upcoming Chicagoland SharePoint users group sessions, we're going to start tackling indexing all of the other things besides SharePoint until we know that our farms, whether they're hybrid farms, including the cloud, or whether they're on-premise farms, are in fact actually acting like this on-site, this corporate Google. I also want to continue to remind you guys to join the tech community. This is continuing to grow. SharePoint's, the Chicagoland SharePoint users group is now broadcasting or publishing its sessions there for you to go and look. It's becoming a big wealth of information, and we continue to recognize and promote that for you guys.
Mark, I want to add something about the MTC real briefly here, which is that Microsoft is heavily promoting the MTC as a place to go to discuss all the content from Microsoft Ignite. So they're deeply integrating the Ignite session builder site with tech community, and So you'll be able to discuss any of the sessions from Ignite in Tech Community.
Fantastic. In other words, everybody, it's becoming the go-to place. That's the starting place during the day when you want to put your hand on the pulse of SharePoint and everything else that is a part of that ecosystem. And it's not just SharePoint, it's all of Office 365. It dives into Azure. Everything's becoming integrated so that you can't just think of your SharePoint environment as an isolated island. It has to be seen in that context of being a part of that bigger ecosystem. Enough said. Continuing. Looking around on the SharePoint news and events radar, we've got just a few pieces of news here because everything's really gearing up about Ignite. Microsoft released more planner features, and we're about to see even some other demos from Perumal today. Released was a new cumulative update for SharePoint 2013, and there's the link to it. Newly released is a new SharePoint dev ecosystem in August 2018. Some of the slides that Ralph presented and that presentations demos Ralph will give next month are going to show using that new dev ecosystem. On the calendar for events, I've been waiting to hear news about the SharePoint Saturday Metro event. The details.
My understanding is that they're skipping that and going straight to the spring.
Okay, so it's going to get pushed off to the spring. I was pretty much expecting that, Mike. Thanks for the update.
Sure.
There's plenty to do in Chicago anyways. September's got an Ignite going on in Florida. We've got the SharePoint Fest happening in December. And it looks like it's growing increasingly large, becoming more and more popular every single season. Handing over to Office 365 news and events to Michael here. Michael, you now have the talking stick.
Thank you, Mark. Let me share my screen. There we go. Okay, can you see my deck?
We're seeing the edit mode of PowerPoint.
Okay, you're seeing PowerPoint in presentation mode?
In edit mode, Mike?
Edit. Let's try it again.
Perfect.
Okay. So I'm going to cover some Office 365 news and then talk briefly about upcoming events and then do a demo of hub sites. So one piece of news that was announced this month, which I really think from an end user perspective is going to blot out everything else, is that Outlook and Outlook on the web are getting a UX update. So what you see here is a screenshot of Outlook as we know it today. And then from a blog post they made recently is a screenshot of their user experience improvements to Outlook. And to me, this isn't a big deal, but I'm an IT professional, and when Microsoft, this many years ago, added the ribbon, it wasn't a big deal. When we went from the menus to the ribbon, I adapted, and life went on. Now they're shrinking the ribbon so it takes up about half as much space, and I think that this is going to get a lot. I mean, for less technical users, I think we may get some freak out, even though, as you can see here, the change isn't that big a deal. What we're seeing here is that they, instead of giving that visual tab-like feel, they're now going with underlines. The ribbon, instead of taking up a sort of vertical inch, is now taking up a vertical half inch.
Yeah.
And they've laid out the icons a bit differently, and you will be able to expand to get back to them to a larger ribbon. Also notice the way they're introducing this is different, where there's this coming soon switch here. So what's going to happen is in an upcoming monthly release, people are going to start seeing this coming soon switch, and they'll have the option of turning it on or turning it off unless IT blocks it. And so this is a way people can get acclimated to change. They can click on, turn it on, and see the new user experience. If they really don't like it, they can turn it off. And that will be available for some period of time before Microsoft just makes the new user experience the way things are. And again, this will come through the monthly updates.
Okay.
And the thing to keep in mind there is that Microsoft is, I'm sure, monitoring the use of that switch and looking for other feedback, and will probably make some sort of modifications to the look and feel based on feedback over this intervening months. But basically, it's get ready to expect this change, and when you see the coming soon button, try it out. So there's been, I mean, Microsoft releases changes on all fronts, but to me, this is the biggest change this month because it's Outlook. Everybody uses Outlook, and people don't like change. So I expect that you may get less technical end users freaking out about this. So I would start making your communication plans now, figuring out how you communicate this. If you're going to leave that button available or not, generally I would recommend that you do leave it available, but start communicating, figure out how you want to do your IT to end user communication plan to let people know what to expect. So that's all the news I'm going to cover. Let's talk about events. As Mark mentioned, Microsoft Ignite is coming up, and this is the giant moment of the year for Microsoft, and the second of the two giant moments of the year for SharePoint professionals. Microsoft is going to make a lot of announcements both for SharePoint and everything else in Office 365. This is the time that they bang the drum, make a lot of noise about all the things they're doing and planning to do. And also, they report on what they've delivered since May, when we had the SharePoint virtual summit, which was the keynote of the SharePoint conference. If you are going to Microsoft Ignite, I will be helping out with the session number MUP 2010, which is Rob Bogue's Office 365 user adoption session, and that's on Thursday, 9/27 in the morning. So if you're interested in Office 365 user adoption, please come to that session. You'll also be able to find me at the Microsoft Teams booth several days. I think it's Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday for 2-hour chunks in the afternoon. After Ignite, if you can't go to, especially if you can't go to Ignite, come to the next Office 365 Adoption User Group meeting on October 4th. And you can find us on Meetup. There's the link to that. It is case sensitive. And we will be doing a recap of all the news and announcements at Ignite, as well as hopefully having a presentation on Bing for Business, which was announced at last Ignite. And then finally, as Mark mentioned, SharePoint Fest is December 5 to 9. It is a 5-day event this year, and I've got a coupon code for that, which you can find on the Office 365 Adoption User Group meeting website, the meetup site for the Office 365 Adoption User Group. If you look at our December event, we are doing a meeting at SharePoint Fest, the Thursday night of SharePoint Fest. And in that meeting description is the coupon code, which will get you, I believe, 15% off one flavor of pass. And SharePoint Fest is a paid event, but the user group meeting, of course, is free. And we hope to have some speakers from the conference on our discussion panel that Thursday night.
I'm going to have to contact the SharePoint Fest people and see if they'll give us a couple of free tickets that we can give away in a raffle in October and in November.
Worth a try. I can introduce you to David Wilhelm if you need it.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Okay. You're at the halfway point time-wise.
Yep. Moving along to hub sites. Hub sites are this new way of organizing sites together. Traditionally, we had site collections where you would have these hierarchies of sites with a structure that you could see in the URL, where you would have site/subsite/subsite and going to arbitrary depths. The problem was that moving those around, should you need to reorganize a site, was very difficult. You needed a third-party product like ShareGate or another third-party product to do that. So hub sites are a way of grouping sites together that isn't based on that URL site structure, it's based on essentially metadata. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a moment here. But basically, you specify which hub site a site is associated with, and then you can change that association just by choosing a different subsite in the drop-down list. A hub site gives your site a common top navigation. So this is how you do cross-site collection shared navigation. It also forces a common theme. So if you upload a SharePoint theme to your tenant and then pick that for your hub site, all the sites that are associated to that hub site get that same theme. And then finally, when a site joins to a hub site, you can have code run, you can have a site script run that will make changes to the joining site as a result of it joining the hub. This, however, we're pretty early on in the life of this feature, and so the admin support is somewhat lacking. You'll notice here on the welcome message to the SharePoint Admin Center preview, Manage Hub Sites is categorized under one of those phrases we dread, coming soon. That means that you can't actually associate a hub to, or a site to a hub in Central Admin. You can't create a hub in Central Admin. You do it through PowerShell. And to be clear, when I say create a hub, it's registering a existing site as a hub.
So you build the hub, you register it as you build the site collection, you register it as a hub?
Right. So the way that you manage hub sites is through our favorite admin tool, PowerShell. As you can see, the available commandlets for working with hubs are add hub site association, get a hub site, grant hub site rights, register a hub site, remove an association, revoke hub site rights, set a hub site, and unregister a hub site. So to set up a hub site, you only need a few of those. So this is how I set up the hub site in my personal Office 365 tenant. Connecting to the SPO service, there's my admin URL, so it's my tenant-admin. So that's where SharePoint Central Admin is for my tenant. Note that I have multi-factor authentication turned on for my account, so I did not try to pass credentials. I let it prompt me for credentials.
Okay.
Obviously, if you were trying to run this in a completely automated, non-interactive way, that won't work so well. Then to see what hub sites I had out there, I did get SPO hub site, and that would list out what hub sites I had, which since this is my first hub site, it returns nothing. Then I register SPO hub site. I give the URL of the hub site, and principals is a list of users who have the right to add spoke sites or add sites to the hub. And so by specifying null, I say anybody can add a hub site, add a site to this hub. And if I wanted to programmatically do that connection, the way that you associate a site to a hub site, and here you see I've got a site called spoke site. I add SPO hub site association, telling it the hub site is blah, blah, blah hub site, and the site I'm connecting to it is blah, blah, blah spoke site. And then if I want to see what the SPO hub site looks like now that I've registered one, I can run get SPO hub site again. And the output of that, minus the diamonds, is a GUID identifying that hub site, the title of the site. Of course, in this case, it's called hub site because the original site, that's what I named it, knowing it was turning into a hub site.
And Michael, would that be considered a best practice then too? That you would be self-describing, using a self-describing name on the actual hub site itself?
Not necessarily. So if you're using the root site collection for this, then, and actually no, I would say calling it hub site is probably not what you want. One common use of this is as the root of your intranet. And so you would give the site the name of whatever brand name of your intranet. Alternatively, in an organization, you could have multiple hub sites, and then you name the hub site based on the kinds of things it's aggregating. So if this is the hub site for HR because HR has 10 different sites to bring together, or the benefits hub site because there's 10, however many different benefits sites that are being brought together. Let's say there's a benefits site about pet insurance, and there's a benefits site about medical insurance, and all these different individual, probably communication sites. You bring them all together by connecting them to the benefits hub site.
Okay.
Now that Get SPO's hub site does not tell you which sites are connected to it. So that's a bit of a pain. Visually, when you take a site, and I see I'm running out of time here. I'll try to hurry this up. Visually, when you take a site and convert it into a hub site, you see that you get this additional row on the page, and that's where your top navigation shows up. If you are in the hub site, you can manage that cross-site navigation. And so clicking on Add Link gives you the option of adding a link, address and display, your standard thing. And we'll look at more of how you can nest those in a moment here. The spoke site, when you, so it's just a regular site, and you go to site information, and if you don't have any hub sites, you won't see anything different. But once you add a hub site, then you get this extra drop-down box there in site information where you can pick what hub site you're associating with.
So then, so logically, it's still a sibling site collection right alongside the hub site, but this is where you get to choose navigation-wise to create this subordinate relationship between the spoke and a particular hub.
Right, and there's only one layer, so you don't nest hub sites, or don't nest spoke sites. A spoke cannot be a hub if it's already connected to another hub. Okay,
so if these are all, so every spoke is actually on a single wheel and there's no sub spokes, so to speak.
Right, right. And so when you connect it, then what you see is you see the name of the hub site and any other navigation that you have show up in that top navigation.
Okay.
And so you can, when you click on Add Link, and you have to be, again, in the hub site to manage navigation, you have the ability to add links, and this is very much like the modern page layout user experience. Let me show you that real quick.
Real quick.
So you see, if you don't mouse over, you don't see the plus. So let me just link here. And then you add another one, or you can change and so forth.
Huh.
And so so now you can make a sublink, promote, etc. Now, let's see what happens when I hit save. Boom, that didn't work. Where'd my navigation go? It's gone. Today, on my tenant at least, there's a bug in this where it's not saving any of my links.
Okay, Mike, this demands a segue. This demands a follow-up in the next month, and you're going to tell us how things are progressing with the hub site. Okay?
Right. So that takes me to my next slide. So in my tenant, hub sites are buggy right now. The other thing that I've seen is that if you're trying to do this with if you're trying to turn a publishing site into a hub site, instead of that menu navigation editor experience, you get tossed to the classic publishing navigation editing experience. When it's working right, and it had been working right in another tenant of mine, you can actually make multiple menus that nest very nicely. And then, of course, all of these things are mobile friendly, so that they shrink down properly on a mobile device. But that is where we are today, is that at least in my tenant, hub sites are broken, and so get familiar with opening tickets, because hub sites are still very much in preview.
Yeah. But there's gold at the end of the rainbow, that you can develop this hierarchical structure once they're actually working. Fantastic. Right. Again, we're going to need a follow-up on that one just to see how the saga goes. For those of you that are new to the group, welcome to Chicagoland SharePoint Users Group. We talk about real stuff and real problems, not a bunch of scripted demos that are flawless, and then in reality, you guys go back and try to do stuff and there are flaws. We cover the flaws, cover the headaches, and then follow up and show you where the fixes are in subsequent sessions. Mike, thanks for that presentation. Let's continue. I can see we're going to get pressed for time today. SharePoint news and events, only a single slide. I'll be very quick about it. The framework version 1.6 is officially out. There's MS Graph native support. That MS Graph is now generally available. GA. What's MS Graph? It's that catch-all, end-all, be-all web service from heaven, not from hell. You can get everything you want from MS Graph. More on that in a subsequent session as well. There's now secure access to third-party APIs instead of user-developed hacks and things that are shared on the community. Lastly, there's a tenant-wide deployment of extensions. This is something they were looking for even since early in the spring. Once you've developed something in the framework, it was very tedious to try to deploy it across an entire organization, an entire enterprise made up of multiple site collections. And now they've developed a way to push solutions across an entire tenant. So watch for Ralph to give us more on that when he's back, possibly in October. Lastly, there's a guidance document. There's a new Yeoman template, a new open source project started by the practices and patterns and practices team. And Andrew Connell is going to be speaking more about this at, yes, you guessed it, Ignite. Now we're going to segue into a vendor demo. We'd like to welcome Narasimha Purumal for short, Chandra Mahan, who's coming from GG Technologies in India to talk about a particular tool add-on called apps4.pro. Purumal, welcome, and we're going to make you a presenter. You now have the talking stick. We see your slides in edit mode.
And Purumal, if you would kindly take yourself off mute, that'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I just unmuted. Yeah, good morning. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm going to explain what is SPFx. Actually, SPFx can help you to leverage your Microsoft Office 365 Planner to manage all your projects in much better way. So what is SPFx? It is actually a tool set which consists of Chrome extension, Windows desktop applications, and we have Outlook plugins also. All these are used to manage all your projects much better way in Microsoft Planner. We help you in the areas of management, governance, and reporting. And I will show you all the in detail how better you can manage your planner with SPFx in upcoming slides. So if you take the planner management, the very basic requirement we get often is that creating the template. Usually the admin want to create a planner template using the existing plan, and he wants to spin up a new plan whenever he creates a new channel in Teams or whenever he is creating new teams itself. So we help in that area. And also using SPFx, you can migrate your plans between various Office 365 tenants. Also, you can move your existing projects in Project Online or Trello to Planner too. And some other things are you can add custom fields in the Planner task, and also you can manage all your tasks in form of a Gantt view also. So first, let me show you a demo of how the Planner template can be created and used using SPFx. Now I'm going to switch over the screen for the demo. So this is a Chrome browser where I have opened the Microsoft Planner, and I have installed my Chrome extension. So once I install my Chrome extension, you can, whenever you open the Planner in Chrome, you can see these two buttons, Export Task and Import Task. So what we are going to do is that I'm going to create a template of this plan, business development plan for my future plan creation. So I'm selecting the plan, water plan. I want to create a template out of it. Since I'm going to create a template, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to uncheck the fields like assigned to start date, due date. These fields are not required when we create template. When we are going to create a new plan out of this template, these fields won't be necessary. So I am removing these fields, and I am removing these two options too. And I am exporting my task. So once I export the task, it will provide me an Excel. It will provide me an Excel of my existing plan, where you can find all the details of your task, checklist, attachment, and everything. So now consider that you have created a template out of this plan, and now you want to create a new plan out of this template. So I'm moving to the new import option, where I'm going to select my select the Excel file just I have exported. And then what I want to do is that I want to create a new plan. So I'm selecting this option, and I'm providing the name for my new plan. And then either I can create a new group, or I can add this plan to an existing group too. So I'm selecting the existing group, business development.
And what is meant by a group in this case, Perumal? Is it an Office 365 group? Is it a...
Yeah, it is an Office 365 group.
Okay, thanks. Continue.
Yeah, the reason is that the teams are attached with an Office 365 group. So whenever we create a new channel, basically we comes with the requirement of having a new plan. So by this way, you can create a plan and attach it to that particular channel in the Teams.
Okay. Is the analogy here that we're either in Microsoft Teams or in Office 365 groups, you define a team, and a team can have multiple channels, and the analogy is that each channel represents some kind of a project or a project-like endeavor, and that's why each one would need its own plan?
Yeah, yes, correct.
Okay.
Okay. So you can see that the task that I'm going to export, and finally, if I click the import task, the new plan will be spinned up. So it is very much simpler. Even here, you no need to use this exported Excel. What you can do is that even you can have a simple Excel where I can have the task title as task title as the header, and I just start typing my tasks. I can even use this kind of Excel to create new plans. It is possible. We have made the import process as much generic. And also there are requirements where people are using or managing the task using project online. Even you can export project to Excel, and then you can import it using this tool to migrate all your tasks from project to planner. It is very simple. We have made the import process as a generic one. It can be any Excel file. It is much simpler. And then the other area is that mostly around 75% of my customers have a requirement of adding some basic simple fields to the existing planned task. For example, the priority or time I have spent for this task or the approval for this task. These are some simple requirements they come up. So what we have done is that we have provided a support of adding custom fields to the planner. It can be text, date time, or user, even option set. For example, priority, it may be high, low, medium, like that. You can do that. Whatever I have provided here, it is a manager view of the planner task. Suppose if you are using our Outlook plugin, the end users can actually set the custom fields, the whatever values they want to set. And then another one is that since a planner is very much simpler to use, many of the small medium projects are migrating from project to planner to manage their projects. And these people miss a feature of using the Gantt. So what we have done is that we have provided a planner Gantt. Here you can view all your planner tasks in the form of Gantt itself. Apart from viewing, what we have done is that you can edit the task from the Gantt itself. You can adjust your start date, end date, set the resources too. And also we have provided some options like tracking the actual start date, end date. And also you can set the dependencies between the task. You can create the subtask. And finally, you can even export this Gantt as a PDF we have provided. So these features usually you will find in project online, but we have provided in the planner for planner also. So it
people end up with the best of both worlds. They get the
yes
of a planner and the agile type of interface or user experience it has. But if they need that robustness, that formality of the Gantt chart, you can display the planner information as a Gantt chart as well.
Yes, they can view the information, and apart from that, they can start planning from the Gantt itself.
Very nice. Certainly everybody's going to be curious about subscription costs. What can you tell us about that in your last 2 minutes?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and then if we come to the governance, the very basic one the admins ask us is how we can back up the planner task. So we come up with a solution of a scheduled backup of the planner task to OneDrive or local storage. And you can schedule it for a hourly basis, days or weeks or months, whatever basis you want, you can do that. So all your tasks with attachments, the description and everything will be backed up to OneDrive or a local storage folder stamped with the date time. And whenever you find there is some problem with your existing plan, you can just use these backup folders to restore it immediately. That's also possible.
Okay.
And then when you come for the reporting section, another basic thing that people ask is that usually the managers or executives, they have a weekly review meeting or something where they will have a planner report and they will discuss the project status with everyone. So what they can do is that they can schedule a report generation and for every Monday, like that 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. Then they can go a meeting place, and they can start discussing with it. And another thing what we have done is that we have provided a Power BI connector for the planner. Right now, this is not provided by Microsoft. What we have done is that we have synchronized all the planner tasks to a Power BI data set. And then you can start creating visuals in Power BI, and you can share it with your members or colleagues. Here we have provided as very basic filter of filtering by plan, bucket, assigned it to due date, overdue, progress, whatever you want.
I see. And a very interesting visualization showing what appears to be either effort or time or something like that.
And
Parimal, we're getting a little bit tight. Can you jump to the subscription cost?
Okay, sure.
This does look like a huge head and shoulders improvement over the basic MS Planner tools that are available in Microsoft Teams.
Yeah, yes. So if you want the gun feature, it is offered at $36 per year. And if you want the management functionality, governance, those things, you can go for the Planner Manager, the second one, for $49. So this is the...
And in case anybody missed it, he said that's $36, not per month. That's $36 per year.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, it is a good feedback for me to mention the price in month.
Yeah, you might want to do that, because at first glance, everybody expects monthly costs. So the 36 is quite large, but 36 per year, that's dirt cheap for the functionality that's being delivered here.
This is for the entire system or per user?
Yes, it is per user.
Okay. So if you have 1,000, it's not that. Okay.
No, not like that. If you are a manager or an administrator, you might have access for all these plans, right? Hundreds of plans or what are plans you are managed. So in that case, you need to just purchase one license.
Got it. Yep, understood. So it's not a requirement for everyone to have every license.
Yeah.
You have a last slide for us on Apps for Pro, a little splash screen. Okay, there you go.
Yes.
Feel free to check that out.
This is Blumenthal. I want to add in real quickly here that I've used Planner Manager. I had a plan that was part of a channel in Microsoft Teams, and I wanted to move that channel into its own team, and so when I created the new team with the new channel, I didn't have any way to move the planner from that old channel over, and so using Planner Manager, I was able to. So thank you, Parimal, for that.
Yeah, thanks, Michael.
So
Thanks,
it does double duty as a migration splitting tool. Very interesting. Parimal, thanks very much again for staying up late, for joining the users group. I suspect that we're going to have a few people that are curious and want to see more. So don't be surprised if I pester you in the next couple of months for another demo showing everything in action in a very large type of situation. Would you be interested in that?
Yes, sure. I am ready to.
All right, fantastic. I'm going to jump off. Here we go, guys. The surfacing SQL data review is going to get pushed to the next session. We're going to segue into Ofer Gal from Novus Law, giving us a presentation, a demo of some work that he's been doing with Kendo UI, jQuery, and CSS. Kendo, I'm handing off to you now. You have the talking stick.
Okay. Oops.
And if you can keep it to 10 minutes, that'll give me 5 minutes, and I think I might be able to squeeze my demo into 5 minutes. Meanwhile, anybody else that has questions that are related to BYOP, feel free to pose those questions via chat or in the question box so we can start tackling them and getting ready for the next session where we try to address those questions. Ofer, tell us what's going on.
Okay, I hope you can see my screen because I can't see the feedback.
Yeah. Yes, it looks fine.
Okay, so I won't go into what we do, but we're not a law office. We help customers with trials and things like that. The thing that I want to bring up here is an idea that actually came from the owner of the company, and I was playing with all kinds of control outside of the visible area. So when you do a scroll, you would still have the buttons to use. And he said, why not have the entire navigation, top and quick nav, kind of frozen and allow for this to happen. So if we look,
like freezing panes inside Excel where you can freeze rows and columns.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I'll give you an example of something in the works. This is usually a very, very long scroll, but
Sure.
you can still have the other stuff going on.
Yeah, so you never lose that context of where you're navigating from that we all know is very aggravating about SharePoint. Even when you scroll a library, you lose the entire header on the library. You got to go all the way back up to do something with it. Cool.
So the plan is that even these things, which are kind of submenus and a search within that area,
Yep.
This will go up in here. And I'm going to show you an example of one area that I did do it already. And this is where our people create content. So they have something like, let's say, a witness. This guy is a witness, and I'll show you. For that witness, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sections, right? So we're getting documents from somewhere else, and so on and so forth. Here you can see that even the tools that relate to this screen only are scrollable, meaning if I expand everything, the scroll is really, really, really long, and there's a lot of sections and stuff like that.
Sure.
But I can still control it from here, no matter where I am.
Oh, you can jump to those bookmarks further down in the page. Okay.
Yeah. So let's talk about Kendo in this area. We did a lot of work with Kendo. All those gray stuff that you see here, those are, I forgot the name for it, but it's like tabs, but vertically.
Oh, the accordion controls?
It's not accordion, it's panel control, panel.
Oh, panel controls, okay.
So if I can collapse the sections, each panel can be open by itself, and this is out of the box Kendo. I don't have to do anything.
Ah, okay.
And this is the famous Kendo grid that you can do lots of things. One of the things, for instance, is to find something that contains the word Walker. And it will give me just Walker. And another big thing that we did here is the edit thing. Here is where they actually go and are able to write their stuff in and have almost word-like way of changing things. And they can either cancel or save.
That's the Telerik rich text editor control, isn't it?
They call it editor now.
Yeah, the editor.
Kendo editor. It allows really beautiful things, no doubt about it. And you can see that each section that I can write to has its own editor. And I don't know if you noticed, but when I went into the edit mode, I lost the quick navigation to allow for more real estate for the user to use. Usually these guys are working on full screen, even though, and they have two monitors to work with, so it's heavy. So they can save their work, and when you done saving, it will go back to show the quick navigation. And also, we allow them to get rid of the quick navigation anytime. So put it all together, we've got a menu from Kendo. We've got two editor. We got the grid from Kendo. Here's another one that is nice. When you want, you can have a hover and it will show the document itself. And again, this is done by Kendo.
Very nice.
Yeah.
In short, you've taken what looked like what might have been a static content page in SharePoint and actually made it into a very interactive, almost an application-like UI for people to get work done. Very impressive.
Yeah. And all this, by the way, to go to the SharePoint side of things, all this is hidden in this. Oh, let me go back. If anybody is familiar with script editor.
Sure.
Come on.
Oh, is this where the jQuery and the CSS got embedded? Ah.
Basically here, we only put HTML.
You can resize that window there. You grab the corner and stretch it out a little bit.
Yeah, but okay. But there's a bug here. You can see there's very little done here. Most of it is done in JavaScript somewhere else. And if you notice, the source is always CDN that whatever.
Yeah.
We have a bunch of site collections that are each for a trial by itself. It could be 3 per customer, 1 per customer, and so on and so forth. But we use the code in only one place. So if I change this doc preview.js in the CDN, it will change all our customers, all our projects. So we don't have to go one by one and change stuff.
That it would propagate out across all of them. Very nice. So in the end, you built a very sophisticated user interface for the users of your SharePoint content to give them ease of use on very long documents that are typical of the legal profession. You did it with only a handful of tools from Telerik, the Kendo UI panel, the editor, and some jQuery and the jQuery, I take it, was in the JavaScript files that are being referenced on the CDN?
Correct, and the CDN is our. And here I have to pay tribute to my other team members, one of which is in Gurgaon, India. He and Tomas, our architect, built this one, which is again Kendo graph, and this is a date, and they build it. It's a very sophisticated way to show pie charts, and all of this is also interactive. Or I can't do it with you guys. Here, it's responsive, I wanted to say. And with that, we had a girl, a lady that worked with us, and she was an expert with CSS. Her name is Anush Madadi, and we had to say goodbye to her because she moved to the East Coast, West Coast, I'm sorry.
At least you got to enjoy the solution here.
Yeah, and we'll learn a lot from her. Anyway, this is it.
Nice work from a fellow member of the users group. Very impressive. Are you guys actually taking your website and actually offering it up in any competitions for intranets or for collaborative UI contests? You might want to consider that.
No, this is only for our customers and our workers in India and Chicago.
Any idea, any estimate, ballpark estimate on how much effort went into not just the prototyping and the final testing? Is this a 6-month effort? Is this how long did it take?
It's hard to say exactly, because we did it in stride, so to speak, because we had to still work with all the sites that were on regular SharePoint backend development and stuff like that. We went all client side, and we worked on it about 2 years, including doing the regular work and supporting our users, again, customers and our people.
Sure.
But there were only 3 of us. I should say 4 of us, because we also have the guy in Gurgaon in India, and he was helping a lot. But it's a long journey, so to speak. But,
sure.
But the freeze thing and the idea of putting stuff on the top, that came maybe a month ago or something like that, and we were able to do it in about a month or something like that.
Oh, to achieve
not full time anyway.
Sure. Yeah, nothing ends up being full time in SharePoint. We hardly ever get that luxury. It looks fantastic. Ofer, I'm so glad that you volunteered to demonstrate and showcase this particular solution to the members today, especially when we have so many people attending, more than 21 people registered. It sets the stage for showing people what's possible inside SharePoint and the third-party tools that are available to empower creating very powerful user interfaces, user experiences. Thanks very much for spending the time on this. I see we're literally down to the wire. If you guys want me to, I need you guys to use the chat tools. Send me a yes or a no. Do you want me to try to take 5 minutes to squeeze in the SendHTTPRequest demo today, or should I wait until next month and demo it? You guys let me know.
I say yes.
Everybody's saying yes from what I can see popping through here.
Oh my gosh, okay. All right, I'm taking over control and we're gonna breeze through this then. Let me know when you guys can see this. I gotta go and bring up that demo then. Give me 1 moment. Now I can't find it. Give me just a second, everybody. Okay, found it. Bringing it up. Closing one of the sessions or one of the presentations so I can get at the other. Tell me you can see the beginning of this slide deck, everybody. And then we're going to do a demo, a live demo on top of it all.
Yes.
It's on Microsoft, the oh so powerful SendHTTPRequest. Can you guys see that?
Yes, you're good.
All right, Jim, you know, Jim's asking if I do it if I'm not going to rush. Jim, I always rush. Here's our big challenge. Microsoft Flow, even today, has over 200 service connectors to different non-Microsoft services. Wow. They have over 100 built-in actions already. The result, it's still not enough. There's still stuff we want to be able to do. Even making a folder in a SharePoint site, hey, even making a SharePoint website can't be done. It's not built in. What's the answer? Microsoft created just a few months ago and sent a new action called SendHTTPRequest. To me, it's one of the most exciting things to come out of Microsoft Flow because it literally opens up the entire universe of Microsoft's SharePoint REST API. It looks like this. It's a simple action in a form. It asks you for an address. It asks you for a method, post or get. It asks you for a URI. You fill in some headers. You fill in some parameters. This one that you see here is configured to actually build an entire website. This one is configured to actually build a folder inside a library or inside a list inside an existing website. And the only thing that needed to be passed in dynamically are these 4 parameters here. And on the folder side, only 2 parameters. Super exciting, super easy to work with. Breaking it down and analyzing it, let's look at the anatomy of a request. We start with a URI to the website that you need to manipulate. You're going to choose a method, get or post, depending on what your REST API requirement is. You're going to specify the endpoint. And this is all well documented in Microsoft's online documentation for the SharePoint REST API, that if you need to go into _API/web/folders, that is the endpoint that you feed information and it generates a folder wherever you specify. You specify some additional headers here and the documentation tells you what the name of the header is and what value it needs to have. Then you go and specify in a JSON payload, a JSON mini document, you provided all of the information that it needs, the parameters of this web service method, this web-based method that is a RESTful web service. Nothing could be simpler as far as filling all of this out. There's only a few caveats that I would share with you guys, a few gotchas. Here's where you're going to go and get all of your documentation. This is docs.microsoft.com. Do a Google search on SharePoint REST API docs. You'll immediately find this documentation. When you start scrolling through this very long documentation, you'll see something that looks like this, creating a site with REST. You'll immediately see that if you were going to do it completely programmatically, you would be making a jQuery, an asynchronous JavaScript call, and you'd be providing a URL, providing the type, providing the data in terms of parameters. And here you've seen me circled in a red box, the things that I made dynamic using Microsoft Flow. You supply it a couple of headers, typically the accept and the content type, and voila. Everything that's in the documentation online, you can use directly in that particular little window, that action inside MSFlow. You fill in all of the details and you end up with a Microsoft Flow that's capable of submitting an HTTP request into SharePoint to perform various kinds of operations, entire CRUD operations. That means adding, changing, deleting content inside there, even up until creating entire websites, maybe even site collections. The recipe is you got to decide what you want to happen. You have to add an HTTP send HTTP action to your flow. You inspect the REST API documents to see what kind of call you need to make. You identify the method that's going to meet your needs. You copy and paste the pieces of the parameter out of the documentation and into your little action. You identify where you need the content to be dynamic. Where are you extracting something from a form, some kind of a variable? You're going to initialize Microsoft Flow variables to contain that data, and you'll see how simple it is. You'll compose the expressions to actually evaluate that little piece of data. You'll set your variables in the output expressions, and you're done. It actually starts working. Let's see what this actually looks like. I'll segue into a demo. So we're going to jump out of this right now and go right into what the workflow actually looked like. Here I built a workflow. It's based on a particular, let me close this. I created a little list here called mock job site info. And when you create a new item here, this workflow is going to be monitoring, this particular workflow is going to be monitoring that particular list. And whenever you get a new item created, I'm going to grab that piece of information, the subweb URL, the title, and the template ID from this list. I'm going to grab those 3 pieces of information and I'm going to pass them into a send HTTP request. to SharePoint, so that here I'm grabbing the subweb URL out of the new record, out of the title, and out of the website and the title and the website template ID. And those are the only things that I had to fill in. Now, what I want you to pay attention to is that nowhere in this form did I actually have to put any single quotes or double quotes, even though it's a text string that's being passed. Most of the time, you don't have to actually put quotes around any piece of information that you copy and paste in here. You can just leave it. Down here, you have to put single quotes inside here, but it's surprisingly easy to get right. You might get a couple errors because you got an extra brace that you didn't need, something like this. That's all that I needed to do. If I click on save and we go and test this little beast, we'll see that it's done saving up inside Microsoft Flow. I'm going to back out one level to where we can actually monitor this run history. We're going to go and create a brand new item here. The item is going to be called MV Test 2018 09/12 at 1:07 p.m. I'm going to give it a job number, ABC. I have a site collection as a choice just to show you that it's possible. You can have any kind of a rich form here, lookups, choices, everything. And for now, I put in STS #0. You could name any GUID here for any custom site template. When I click on save, the item goes into the list. The moment the item goes into the list, we see that if I hit refresh here on the run record for this Microsoft Flow, we're going to see that it actually already succeeded 10 seconds ago. If we see it, if we go back and look inside the Chicagoland SharePoint users group in the site contents, and I do a refresh on subsites, we'll actually see that it created at 1:07 p.m. a brand new site. So that we see how powerful, we just created a site provisioning solution in the time that it took for me to show you. If I go back into edit, in fact, we could step through the execution of that particular workflow, but what I want you to focus on today is that all we had to do was name a site address, name a method, and all of this information came from the online documentation. That I'm going into web/webinfoservice/add is the endpoint, i.e. it's the web service. The web service, the call itself requires 2 headers, and the web service requires this particular payload of information, this Java, this JSON object that represents a set of properties that I supply to it. Tell me what type of metadata is coming in, tell me the URL, the title, the description, etc. All of this was easily gathered simply by going and looking and using the dynamic variables that are possible inside MSFlow. And with the help of this single HTTP request action, I was able to do something as sophisticated as actually provisioning a new website easily. Let's see, questions. I don't see any questions on here. We've already gone over. Next month, it's going to be October 17th. Thanks everybody for staying a little bit late. It was a fantastic session. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Purumal, for staying up late. Thank you, Ofer, for demonstrating what's possible inside SharePoint. And thanks to the audience today and to the new 14 people that came in the last month. Look forward to seeing you guys in October and telling you what happened at Ignite. Have a great time. Bye.